Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter film crew podcast. And you can visit us on our website at www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com.
Mhm.
So this week we watched Twisters, directed by Lee Isaac Chung. Here's your synopsis. Haunted by a devastating encounter with a tornado, Kate Cooper gets lured back to the open plains by her friend Javi to test a groundbreaking new tracking system. She soon crosses paths with Tyler Owens, a charming but reckless social media superstar who thrives on posting his storm chasing adventures. As storm season intensifies, Kate, Tyler, and their competing teams find themselves in a fight for their lives as multiple systems converge over central Oklahoma. So this movie stars Daisy Edgar Jones, Glenn Powell, Anthony Ramos, Brandon Pera, Maura Tierney, Sasha Lane, and Harry Haddon Patton. So, Dale, what were your thoughts about this film?
I thought it was a wonderfully put together film. Of course, this is Lee Isaac Chung. His second time, he basically also shot Minority in the same location. Joseph Kosinski, we've spoken about him before, from his work from, Top Gun, and everything else. Like he's really come becoming one of those guys in Hollywood, uh involved with Tron Legacy, Oblivion, like his filmography is growing like really, really well. Yeah, I thought it was like a wonderful movie. It's a legacy picture that's not burdened and tied down to the previous established film. Even though I think Bill Paxton was in the original one. If you're a child in the 90s, you've probably saw it before. Like we mentioned a couple weeks ago, like you might have had nightmares about the idea of Twisters if you were a kid and you couldn't comprehend it. His son shows up as the guy in the motel who's like asking for a refund. So yeah, I thought it was a wonderful movie. Like I can kind of also relate to uh Daisy Edgar Jones' character of Kate a little bit, being from Miami, dealing with, tumultuous weather that you kind of sometimes can't predict. And to be honest, in South Florida, tornadoes do pop up, but not as frequently as a tornado alley. So I can understand her both fear and her being mystified by this, force of nature.
Yeah, I did enjoy this film a lot. I went to go see it in IMAX because I wanted to have that full experience of being shaken by the tornadoes. Um, and it really was a good experience. I feel like that's just like with these type of movies, it's just good to have that because it does add something a little extra to your viewing experience. But yeah, because I had just watched Twister, I was like really excited to see like how they were gonna do this film and how it was gonna stand apart from what had already been established. And I think they did a really good job. Like it's not like a direct sequel in that way where it's like you're following maybe the main cast characters' kids or something like that. Like it's not like that. It's like a very separate thing that I think touches on different elements that not even the original did, which I thought was really cool. Like I like the things that they were kind of playing with, people helping each other out in times of crisis and sometimes people, benefiting off of tragedy, stuff like that. I thought that was really a good thing to play around with there. So I did really like it. And I think that one of my favorite parts of it was that um it has a lot of big action set pieces and stuff, which are fantastic. And I really enjoyed those. But I also think that like the characters are so compelling as well. Like you really do, I think you care about the people as you're watching them. Like I think the opening scene especially was just great for like setting you up for like what's about to happen because I think Daisy Edgar Jones' character of Kate had this very like wide-eyed, really excited to like understand this phenomenon that she's really, inspired by. And it totally like disrupting her life. Like it takes away her partner, her friends, like she completely moves out the state. It's really it was so captivating that because I was like, I love all of these actors, but like I don't think I saw them in the promo, so I don't think they're gonna stick around for that much longer. And then they did it. Like, and that was terrible. I love Karen Shipka. Like Karen Shipka since Mad Men, like that is my girl. And she got clipped in that opening scene, like gone.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what is going on right now? So yeah, I think that I think it was such a good way to set the tone for the film and for also like getting you quickly invested in these new characters. I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, like Daryl McCormick just gets yeeted
Oh,
as well. Like, oh,
yeeted.
you're like, oh, I mean, and you thought you thinking, okay, they're gonna survive because they're under the overpass, and nope, just ripped. Like, yeah, I love that scene too, and it also, and I enjoyed them including that scene because I found it kind of weird, like I mentioned before, being from Miami, understanding like the predictable nature of weird weather. It's kind of like the habit of I remember when if you remember at Oakwood, how people in California talk about how earthquakes and stuff like that, and how people usually in Miami were like, oh, hurricanes, whatever, whatever. And most of the Northerners like, what? Weird weather, don't understand what's going on. Like, what are y'all dealing with? Like, I found it kind of odd as being a person from Oklahoma that she wasn't also completely aware of the phenomenal power of these twisters, these storms. You know, you would at least have been aware and how she talks about how these are people being affected. Like it seemed to me like that revelation only happens after she loses like her boyfriend and her two other teammates. That I feel like that part of her character should have kind of already been there. Like because I remember growing up and like literally I'd wanting to go outside in like a hurricane and seeing how strong it is. But the only times I went out because I was aware, like when you're living weird like dangerous weather phenomenon, you're taught from like as a kid like to respect it. Like I remember
Mm.
doing like I remember growing up in like elementary school and doing like hurricane dioramas. Like we learned how to like to read weather patterns, like little like the maps of like when the arrows when they're saying high pressure systems, like all that in here. Like I learned how to read that shit. So I was like, how are you treating this like it's almost a game in a way? Like I understand characters like Glenn Powell's character and all the regular civilians who come and watch and chase storms, but for a person who's brought up in the area, I found it kind of odd, you know.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe they did it in a way so it's like to give her an arc, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. So like she is kind of naive about it in first, and then when she faces that tragedy, she becomes more concerned about like what it can actually do.
Mm.
And that goes to another point. I'm kind of skipping ahead of my notes a little bit, but in terms of like one thing I think they didn't tackle as much, which is climate change.
Yeah.
I feel like the reason why those tornadoes were so intense was because of the planet just like ha causing these insane, natural disasters. And it's weird that that didn't pop up because I was thinking that it would lead there. Like,
Yeah.
yes, Oklahoma, you know that it's Tornado Alley, like you know that you're gonna face those things, but I think because of the frequency and the intensity of these hurricanes that are destroying multiple towns around the state, it seems like that would have been brought up,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. So I was just like, oh, like, I guess that doesn't exist in this world. So,
Yeah. And then you're right. Coming off of, we're dealing with this heat wave due to global warming, massive climate change. We had hurricanes are forming earlier, all these storms and stuff like that was happening. I mean, I think they kind of sidestepped it because they didn't want to I think topics like this tend to be viewed as being too political. Like I remember a couple years ago, I think it was when in the Netherlands they had a flood and they interviewed this Dutch lady, and she was like, "Oh, this only happens to poor countries," not being fully aware that due to climate change, everybody can be affected, which also coincides with the fact that um, Anthony Ramos, who played Javi,
mm,
his initial business partner, him and David Cornsweet, who was playing Superman. Um,
That is
there,
him. I knew it was. I was like,
yeah,
why you look familiar?
yeah.
Sorry.
Apparently, he got the call that he got the role during the filming of this movie,
That's
but
cool.
like them going into business with who's basically a businessman who just wants to buy land for the bottom dollar after people who are devastated by, these storms who have nothing left and have to leave. Like he's buying the land for cheap underneath them, and he's just gonna end up flipping it and selling it to somebody who builds a house there, and it becomes a perpetuating cycle for him to make money. And that they kind of size the global warming issue is that because a lot of rich people will have the means to still survive,
Hmm.
due to these terrible storms, but everybody else won't be able to. They'll be able to escape it. Like you've seen stories like a couple weeks ago on social media when the hurricane was hitting Jamaica.
Hmm.
These Americans like they made TikToks and made videos joking about the fact that they left Jamaica and were able to come back to avoid the hurricane, like stuff like that.
Yeah, ignorance. They could have put that in there too, but then you would have to address the the climate change thing. I mean, you could
Yeah,
have just put it in there regardless, but
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think this movie was definitely supposed to be like kind of palatable to
yeah.
everyone so everyone can watch it
Mhm.
because these natural disaster movies are really interesting, but I think I personally feel like they're more interesting when you do get political. Like The Day After Tomorrow is a very political movie.
Yeah.
Like it's really based in the politics as well as facing the natural disaster. Love that movie, think it's fantastic. I have watched it a million times. Like, so I think because that is the other side of it, right? The politics, the socioeconomic situations, all of that is involved in these things. So I understand that like, this is a summer blockbuster, so we're just gonna make it kind of light and fun, but like I think that they took some steps, but like didn't go all the way with it because then it could mean that some audiences might not want to see it. So I understand it from a business standpoint. But
Yeah.
anyways, one thing I didn't like originally is that Javi was like, when Javi goes to New York to get Kate to come back, I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like, she has some PTSD from this. Like, I'm not really
Mhm.
sure that's gonna work. And then
Yeah.
when he tries to get her to go on a chase and she's like not doing well because she is traumatized by this event and she's getting like re-traumatized by it, he got upset. And I was like, how do you have the audacity to get upset? You were also in the situation. You also lost your friends. Like, why don't you understand that she is struggling? Why did you bring her out here? Like, I just kind of got upset about that for a little bit.
But she also could have declined.
She could have.
So
But
I
my
can
thing is like,
understand
don't get mad at her because she's not doing what you want in
here,
that
but
moment.
my thing is like I'm giving you the parameters. Like, oh, we have three radars, two are stationary, one is is trailing in front of the path of the twister. Like you knew what was going to happen. Like, so don't act surprised when it's like, all right, cool, we're in front of the twister. Let's drop these panels. Don't panic. Like, and it's on both of them because he knew, well aware that she had PTSD from her experience. Like, they both lost friends, but he wasn't in the storm, you know.
Exactly.
And then,
Exactly.
but she should have been upfront, but like, oh, we're gonna be following the storm. She could have offered like, look, can I be like the trail car or the radar car, and let you know where it is. There could have been a compromise there as well, because really all he needed from her was where's the storm forming. Like read the winds for me, like tell me where the storm is going and be fine. And she could have been in another vehicle, like posting up the radar, and him and Scott could have been in that other car, putting on the panels or being followed by the storm. So yeah,
Yeah. I guess sometimes you don't know how you're going to react until you're like in the situation.
yeah,
But yeah, it's fine because I do really like his character. It's just that that moment pissed me off, but it's okay. We talked through it now. So
yeah.
another thing that almost pissed me off, and I'm glad that they didn't do this, but was that they were trying to form some type of love triangle between Javi, Daisy, and Glenn Powell. I'll just use their names since I'm using their names. Glenn Powell, Daisy, and Anthony. And I was like, I'm not really sure I buy this.
Hmm.
And also, I don't like the whole there is a fake love triangle, but we're not gonna partner her up with the brown guy because he's brown.
Yeah.
and she's gonna end up with a white man. Like, I don't like that. I mean, she was dating a person of color in the beginning, but now they're trying to do this again where this is a love triangle. And I was like, I don't want it. I don't want this story. And
Yeah.
apparently there was a kiss, but Steven Spielberg, who is one of the producers of this movie, was like, don't have that in there. So they cut
Yeah.
it. And Daisy was like, yeah, it might have fell too much into the cliches. Great note, Steven. You know exactly what you're doing because
Yeah.
it would have been super cheesy. And I was really glad that she didn't really end up with either of them. So I was happy about how they ended it. I guess at that point when they were like trying to establish it, where like obviously Glenn is into Daisy, but Anthony's like, oh, do you want to hang out? And blah, blah, blah. Like I was just like, I don't like this. I'm not a fan
Like,
of this. And they didn't
Anthony
do it. So
was
thanks.
like trauma bonding in a way.
Mm,
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. I mean, I know people were kind of some people were saying how Glenn Powell's character in this as being a storm chaser, and I like how they merged the current day because they did the same thing in the first movie because Bill Paxton's character was kind of like mad reckless. Like his claim to fame was like in the first movie was going out buck naked in the middle of a twister, and he was known as the Wild Man in that movie or for that circle in that movie. And Glenn
hmm
Powell is kind of adopting, the social media star of the storm chasing world, I guess. And people were kind of like, oh, he's kind of dumb. Like he's being like a
The
himbo,
himbo.
which I do kind of agree, but he's like
But he's
a smart,
not.
he's not dumb. He's just
Yeah, he's
playing
not
dumb.
dumb.
He's like playing a character. And it wasn't until he reveals in that conversation with Daisy when they're at the rodeo that you go, and then they also subsequently following up them at the barn studying how the twisters form. Like, oh, this dude is smart. He's just playing a character for, you know, the internet, basically.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that he is playing dumb. Like, I guess I can understand maybe not the himbo commentary, but more of like the golden retriever commentary. Like, he
Yeah,
just seems like very enthusiastic and excited. And
yeah,
that's a point of his social media presence is to like make these things, these tornadoes look fun and exciting and like the most adventurous, crazy thing that you could ever do. And it's not that you're dumb, you're just like, I mean, to me, anyone who's chasing storms, you're a little soft. But like in terms of like everyone, if this is what you're doing because like you're trying to help, like you have to know something about it because you're doing it. So you're not stupid. And I think that they established that kind of quickly early on that like he went to university for this. Like he is, he's not dumb. But I think that the whole purpose of him having that swag or whatever thing was for there to be that interaction between him and Daisy, for her to not be impressed by that, and then to kind of strip that down as the movie continues so that he can be vulnerable. I mean, I think he would have become vulnerable anyways because he was like into her. So he probably wouldn't to like show her that, oh, he thinks that she's a city girl and she's sophisticated or whatever. Also, she has an accent in this movie, so why did you think that she wasn't from Oklahoma? Anyway, but yeah, so I was just like, I'm not gonna, I feel like Glenn Powell does have like major like puppy energy, and so maybe people were just like projecting his personality that he shows us as an actor onto the character that he's playing,
yeah.
but ultimately there's a lot more depth there. And he really rides with her, like he protects her and everything. I was like, love him. Honestly, what love Glenn. Like, what a stand-up guy, you know?
People were saying, or people saying, oh, with this movie, like, oh, he's probably not Tom Cruise, probably more Matthew McConaughey after this movie, which I could kind of see it.
But you know what happened to Matthew?
He got his chance once he got a chance, like, oh, you can actually
He did his
act.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's doing
So
his thing. So,
yeah,
hey, that's a good comparison. I'll take it.
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the action set pieces. Like, what was your favorite of those big scenes?
Mine is honestly the two bookending ones, the beginning one,
Hmm
and it's more so with the beginning one is the overall like because the first one is mostly shot in the car. You get that building tension that you get just based off actors. Like, come on, I mentioned before how I love actors when they emote, like that, the tension rising, like, oh, we saw a falling log, blah blah blah. That could just be heavy winds, and then their their body language just increasing without relying on completely 100% external shots. I love stuff like that. And then you have the final set piece of where, Anthony and David, their truck flips, and the Twister comes by the oil refinery and it catches fire, and the fire comes up, and then their car gets knocked right, and they just gun it straight to the town, and he abandons David in the middle of the street, and I'm like, is David dead? Because he leaves them like they're on the way to the city, and the tornado is heading toward the city, and he just abandoned this dude in the middle of an Oklahoma cornfield. Is this dude dead? You know, I have questions. I need answers. But that whole transition, and then that whole thing where they're in the theater, and like one of his
Mm.
teammates is almost sucked out through the screen, which I loved. Oh man, I love that shot because the fact that there's a movie playing and then it just that back window, that whole back portion of the theater just comes off, and you see the show of the tornado. I love that composition and the thought process to come up with that shot. Those kind of stuff really tickle my brain, like sparks start flying. I love that kind of stuff. Like that whole sequence, those two, I love so much.
Yeah, that was an amazing sequence. That was one of my favorites. I loved every single one of them. And what's crazy is that Lee Isaac made Minari, which is a very small
Yeah,
indie picture. I could have never imagined that he would do something like this and do it so well in terms of like just direction. But
yeah,
all of the departments did such a fantastic job. I mean, I think the nostalgia of like having a movie like Twister in the 90s was really nice because and I think that the in terms of like the visual stuff, like some of it is like really good. And some of it is kind of just cheesy because, they didn't have the technology to do all of everything, but it's still good. And this one, because you do have the technology to do it, I was really excited to see like how they were gonna use that to their benefit in terms of making us feel like we are also about to get sucked up by this tornado. And in that last sequence, I felt it. I was like, I'm going down. Like I'm in a movie theater, it's coming for me. Like I already felt that.
yeah,
And when the screen rips and everything, it was just so good. The chairs were like flying off of the thing. I was like, amazing, great. Um, I really love the rodeo scene just because the people who were at the front desk, I was like, we don't need to save them. We can leave. And that's what happened. They didn't listen and they died. So yeah, anyways, but being in the pool, for some reason that pool scene when they're like in the pool like holding on for dear life and the mom and the daughter are in there, it just reminded me of the first one because that was
yeah,
like in that first opening scene of Twister, it was just like, oh wow, that's a nice subtle callback to the first one. I really liked that.
yeah,
But yeah, all of it and the fact that most of it I think was practical, it just shows like you can just tell when something is authentic and when something is done like on green or blue screen. Like so I really applaud them for just making it such a visceral experience because I mean that is why you kind of go to see the movie, you know. You want the tornadoes.
yeah,
You want that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and also the movies, like even the first one was amazingly done well. Like ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, of course, for doing a lot of stuff with Disney as far
Mm.
as the special effects. And that's also, not Spiel, but that's Lucas. But they were involved with that first one as well. But you also see like you can see like, oh, the first one is kind of not real because they're kind of also relied on a lot of miniatures as well. And they didn't really spend as much time in the storms as much.
Hmm.
Whereas this one, you can see how far technology has advanced, where they're able to actually do a lot of these scenes 100% like CGI, like in full, and still grab your attention. Like, mind blowing.
Yeah. So I loved all of that. Didn't love that like I mean I like that Kate goes to try to stop it and save the day, but it seemed a little too easy. I'm like, how did you? And also, like, is this technology real or is it like based on a theory? Because if this technology is real, then I feel like we should be using it. Like, why
I
are
mean,
tornadoes still
it's
destroying people's homes?
well with these movies, there's also always a tangent of pseudoscience in a
Okay,
way.
so it's sci-fi then. It's not real.
Yeah, like I know they were involved with there was an actual National Weather Service analyst
Yeah.
involved with them in this
Hmm.
movie. He was also involved in the first one, but you don't know how much actual science stuff was involved because if if this worked in real life
Right. That's what
and
I'm saying.
they would have been doing it constantly. They would have been like as soon as like a tornado or an idea of a tornado is going to fly, you like I know with like we mentioned, sorry to bring up hurricanes, but that's really my only real reference with these kind of weather phenomenon. I know with hurricanes, like they do fly into the hurricanes to analyze the data. Like you would think the Air Force would go, oh, okay, cool. There's a tornado forming in Oklahoma in this area. Cool. Take a plane up in the sky, drop those stingy thingies, and let it dissipate. But that doesn't happen in real life. So
Right. So I was like,
yeah,
I was like, that was convenient.
yeah.
But it's supposed to be a fun movie, so I just let it go. And I was like, fine. She didn't need the boys to do it. She did it herself. Love it.
Hmm.
Loved all the performances. Everyone was so good. Like even the supporting cast, I thought they were really good. If you watch Normal People or Conversations with Friends, Sasha
Yeah.
Lane is in this. So it was like a Normal People team and Conversations team up. I loved that.
Hmm.
Um, Glenn Powell for me is always just gonna he really is just like he's
Yeah.
such a superstar. But I really did love Daisy. I think Daisy really like she's such a good actress and she really held it down throughout that entire movie. Like she you can tell that she like really is disciplined in like how she does her performances.
Yeah.
So loved her, loved Anthony too. Loved everybody, but
Yeah.
yeah, those were my
Yeah.
favorites.
I love the idea this movie was like it went through so many phases. Like Joseph Honsky pitched it to Ambien, which is Spielberg,
Yeah.
in 2022. And then Universal was like, yeah, we're gonna do a reboot. And they were gonna bring Helen Hunt back. And they're also gonna
Oh.
involve like Davi Dig and one of his scene partners from Blind Spotting, the show
Mm,
slash movie, and they were originally going to be in an HBCU, which I thought was kind of weird. But I do wish Helen Hunt was also involved in it. And I
mm,
reading about her script, like that story, it was originally going to be her reprising and the story focusing on her and Bill Paxton's daughter, which I can kind of see maybe Daisy Edgar Jones was initially going to be their daughter, and then
mm.
probably the passing of Bill Paxton probably made them readjust the writing and also change stuff when they cast it. But I would have loved at least for Helen Hunt to make an appearance in this movie. You
Yeah,
know,
that would have been nice.
like, a scene in the national weather service, where they're saying, "Oh, we're gonna talk to a esteemed, meteorologist, storm chaser, and have her on screen, just something off camera, not really fully. Like the camera could like glaze by it as the characters are watching, and you hear her voice in the background while they're going over data or something like that.
Yeah, a little cameo.
Because I think the robot thing they use in the opening sequence is the same thing. Dorothy's from the original movie,
Yeah,
if I remember
yeah,
correctly. So they could have,
they could have.
brought back, yeah, Helen Hunt for that.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that the music, the country music, I was not like on board because some of the songs were like very on the nose. Like the song was like literally speaking about what was happening in the scenes. So I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that. I think the score was good, but in terms of like the soundtrack, I wasn't like 100% on board. But that's a little thing. Overall, I thought it was really good, and I thought that it works really well as a standalone film, even though it's a part of this franchise. Um, I think I liked the story maybe a little bit more of the first one, but I think the spectacle of the second one
The
is so
visuals,
good
yeah.
that it's like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say which one is better, but I'm just saying like both things have bring a little different energy, and I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it.
And like I said with Joseph, I think he takes the right approach when it comes to doing sequels to original pictures. Like, of course, with Top Gun and stuff like that, that was a beautiful sequel to the first Top Gun movie. But also with this movie, it's also a sequel, but it's not reliant on having watched. Well, neither one. You can watch Top Gun Maverick without watching the first Top Gun and still be fine. Because they kind of go over who he is in that movie. But he's shown two good ways of recreating sequels. You can adhere to what was established before, but you can also create something that deviates and adds on to it without being bound to what was done in the first place. Which I think going forward is a direction that I think Hollywood can probably go with a lot of these sequels that are coming out for nostalgia purposes. They don't have to adhere like this happened in the first movie. We have to go by the first movie. No, you can create a whole new piece of work of art that is not I wouldn't say held down, but yeah, kind of held down of what you did before.
Yeah.
Fresh off, twisters and tornado talk. Moving on to some news. I mean, this portion of news is very, I guess, important to me. The fact that Sundance is considering moving its, influential film festival away from Park City, Utah, where it has been for the last 40 years. Just kind of going through the idea of having different locations starting in 2027. Um, I'm looking forward to it. They're looking at Atlanta, Cincinnati, Boulder, Colorado, Louisville, Kentucky, and Santa Fe, Mexico. Like if Atlanta or Louisville, Kentucky get it, I would love it because it gives me opportunity to go participate and watch these amazing films that premiere here. Because other than Tribeca, I think Sundance and Tribeca are the two premier U.S. film festivals. So yeah.
Yeah, I really hope that they do move it to Atlanta because then I can go. Like the biggest thing is that it's been in Park City, Utah, which is like such a far travel for I guess everyone who lives on the East Coast. It's just
Yeah.
like it's just a lot. So prayerfully they do it in Atlanta. And apparently South by Southwest is also going to London
Hmm.
sometime next year. So I feel like these, as you say, premier film festivals like South by Southwest, Sundance, maybe Telluride might le like go somewhere else. That'd be kind of cool. I feel like they're because of their status that they've accumulated over these years, like they can travel different places. I think that would be great because
Yeah.
there's a lot. Because one of the things that we've always talked about on the podcast is just like getting access to see these movies. So it would be amazing if like travel wasn't like a big thing. Travel and lodging was not like a huge thing that you had to think about, and you can just like go really quickly. Like that'd be amazing.
Even at least Cincinnati is not that big a thing because I could always still like hop a Greyhound, or
I'm
hop a
crying.
train. I mean, I don't know. I'm saying at least
Take a
with
flight.
Cincinnati, it's Ohio. I could take a train there, and then I could like take a train to New York and like chill with family. It's a possibility where I can sort it out. Where Park City, Utah, I can't do any of that.
Yeah.
I can't make it out
No.
on a budget. But yeah.
So that's super exciting. The next story. Well, basically, well, first of all, the Emmys, the nominations came out last week. So there were some snubs and surprises. One of the biggest ones that I realized was that the Master of Air thing that came on Apple, I don't think it got anything. And that was like a Steven Spielberg produced, Tom Hanks involved, like all of these young actors in like a World War either one or two
Mhm.
show that seemed like it was getting a lot of at least a lot of press. I don't know if anyone actually watched it, but like in terms of the marketing, it seemed like it was pretty good. So that was kind of surprising to me. I was like, oh wow, it's nowhere here. But in terms of like what we know was gonna be nominated, like um The Bear and The Crown and Abbott Elementary, like those things stayed consistent. So like I'm fine with that. Like I think that's great. But yeah, that was interesting that I didn't see that wasn't up there. I was like, oh, thought it would be because it seemed like very primed for, you know, how things are Oscar bait. Maybe this was Emmy bait. I don't know if that's It felt like it was.
Well, my only concern is like y'all can't cop put y'all gotta stop putting the Bear as comedy series. Like I find that unfair. You know, the Bear is actually there are moments because the life is hilarious in stupid ways, but that show is like really serious. It's a drama to me,
Mm.
you know. So, um, do you want to cover the next one? Do you want me to cover the next one?
Uh,
Oh, okay,
it's
okay,
fine.
go
I'll
ahead.
do
I'll do
it.
it. I got it. So, one of our favorite actors right now, Rob Pattinson, is in talks to star with one of our least favorite actresses, and
Don't
Jennifer
include me in
Lawrence.
that. I'm not.
Oh no,
I'm not a part
me,
of
me.
that.
This
Oh,
is
okay.
me. This is
Okay.
me. I'm not putting. I'm not. I'm not.
You
I'm
used the
not
word we,
putting.
so I just assumed that you were
Well,
coupling
me.
both of
I'll
us.
me. I wrote couple her in this. This is me. I'm not really a big Jennifer Lawrence fan, but segue. They are coming together in Die My Love, which Martin Scorsese will be producing. Sounds like a weird pairing of actors to me to put together this project with an outstanding director. Well, with an outstanding producer on the quality of Scorsese. We'll see how that goes out. Um, mm, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, no. I want. What's your opinion on like the casting news? I mean,
To me, this is like Beyonce and Miley Cyrus doing a song together. It's like, oh, y'all are making you're making something together. I'm completely on board. And it's not because like I mean, I know people have an issue with Jennifer Lawrence. I don't really get what it is 100%. Like I get it to a certain point. Like she's a little bit what's the word? Out of touch, but seeming in touch or trying to seem relatable, and that is annoying to people. I don't know. I feel like we've moved on from that period, but if we all are still
yeah,
in it, that's fine. Um, I think she actually is a very talented actress.
yeah.
Like beyond what the memes and all that other crap. Like she is a very talented person. So I'm excited to see her and Robert Pattinson in this. I have no idea what this is gonna look like because they're very similar in terms of like they're just like I don't know what's the word to describe people who seem like they don't really care about stuff, but they actually care a lot.
Yeah.
What is that called?
Nonchalant.
Yeah, they're nonchalant, blasé attitude about how they feel about Hollywood in general, but in terms of like their art, they're very serious about that. So I like that. I like this pairing. I feel like it's interesting. Apparently, Lynn Ramsey, who did We Need to Talk About Kevin and like those weird movies, like she's doing it. So I hope it's weird because these two are some weirdos. So like I hope it's weird and cool. I will see it.
I mean, it's coming from a nonchalant person. I kind of do see it, but it seems to me like Robert is probably it's more he legitimately does not care at all. Whereas to me, Jennifer Lawrence puts on an air of like she doesn't care, or it seems like she really does. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I did love her performance in Causeway,
Mhm.
but and then other than that, her acting, I guess, is kind of here or there for me. It's kind of hit or miss. But I don't know. Like you said, it's an interesting pairing. Um, given the fact that especially she'll kind of like I'll give Jennifer Lawrence her credit. She'll kind of bounce between different types of projects so are serious and comedic. Like she'll kind of take on a role, whereas Robert Pattinson's like, no, I'm doing serious shit. I'm a serious actor, and I will not deviate from that. So we'll see how that, I guess, pairing works. Knowing this movie, which Scorsese involves, is going to be a serious movie, but I guess the casting has not even like Jennifer Lawrence is the lead, and she's
Mhm.
playing like a single mother, but they haven't revealed who or what Robert Pattinson's role in the movie is. So
Yeah. I like the idea of them together because I do think one, I think they're really funny. Like Rob plays his humor as like ironic or whatever, but like
deadpan,
deadpan, yeah, but it's actually
yeah,
he is a very funny person. I don't know if this movie is going to be at all comedic. It's just I'm thinking like in terms of where there's some overlap where I can see it working. I feel
yeah.
like they have some like similarities in their personalities. I don't know if they have similarities in their approaches, but they might. I think that Jennifer Lawrence gets a lot of like flack, but she's done interesting stuff. Like if you're not
Yeah,
looking at like well, actually you can look at the Hunger Games. I feel like the Hunger Games were great movies, actually. I think that they were fantastic. But also if you're just looking at like roles like Mother and stuff, like there's some interesting stuff in there. And Rob also does like those like really weird, intense films. So I just feel like there's something there. And like I said, I
yeah.
feel like they don't care about like the marketing and the Hollywood sheen of all of the like the process of like having to be a celebrity. But in terms of being actors, I feel like those that's what they're interested in and that's what they care about. So I feel like I don't know. At least the press tour will be fun. But like in terms of the actual movie, I don't know what it's gonna be like, but I hope it's good. Um, because I've been with these guys since they were young. They were young children. Well, not Jennifer, but like since Rob was young. Anyways, that's there is the one thing that everyone's talking about, but I don't know.
Look, all I'm gonna say on that is, as far as that old man is concerned, right thing, horrible timing.
Mm,
This should have been done or mentioned like a year or two ago, or probably even, during the initial beginnings of the election cycle. Like, it's like the election is in November, Playboy. Like, in like, yeah, like, I mean, I don't like,
boy, boy. That's so good.
and I shouldn't even say Playboy. It should be that whole party. You know, People have been saying the issue. This man was too old. They're both too old, and then you wait to after one presidential debate, you go, "Oh, he can't. He shouldn't be president because he's too old." Like, we've been saying this. We've been saying this for like a long time, and then at like the midnight hour, you guys say, "Oh, yeah, you guys are right," and now you're gonna have to scramble and put together a perfect campaign to
Mm,
to beat the idiocy on the other side. So yeah,
yeah, you're right about that. It's so interesting and crazy. And like, if I wasn't living in this country, I think I would be extremely fascinated by everything that's happened. But because I am a citizen here and the decisions affect my life, I can't be as like, whoa, that's kind of somewhat entertaining and crazy and cool. But like,
yeah,
just how everything has unfolded. It's been an insane couple of weeks, like insane. And
yeah.
I feel exactly how you feel. I just feel like I I feel like overall, institutions, like big institutions, are not proactive. And it takes a really long time for them to get messages. And I think it's just because they're in their own bubble. So they don't know what real people are thinking or feeling. Even though they have data, they're not like concerned about it, which is so interesting to me because I'm like, aren't you guys elected officials? Like, it's just very strange. It's strange that no one like clocked it. Or maybe they clocked it, but they were just like, well, we're just gonna do it anyways. So that's interesting. What else is and interesting I use that's a generous word for me to be using there, interesting. But like in terms of like what's happening right now though, I find it hilarious that Hollywood was silent when it came to this election until he dropped out. And after he left, everybody came out of the woodwork and was like, yes, we're with her, which is amazing to me because it's like you could just tell everyone was like, not with this, not with
And nobody was with,
yeah.
unless you're like a brainwashed idiot on the other side, you didn't really care. But any logical person is like, why are we voting for like 80-year-old dudes who can like die at any time? Who can wake up in the bed and just roll over and like conk out to like make life-taking decisions. What the median age of this country is like 25 to like 40. Like,
Oh,
you're not
really? Oh
gonna
my
be here.
God.
You're not gonna be here. Why are we letting these old crusty ass white dudes, you know? have power. Like their consensus for understanding what the pulse of the country is would be their grandchildren.
Yeah, that's
And
true. Mm.
and most people, most grandparents are not that like, oh, you young kids, like, or so they'd be really detached from it. At least if, you know, they're like 50, 60, you have kids within that range. There's, but these dudes like almost 80. Like, no, like, why? Like, why? Which is kind of weird looking back at it as a kid and like people like Bill Clinton and like George Bush are running. To me, they were old, but they were like in their like 50s ish.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, and so that's like, okay, cool, they're in their 50s ish. That works, but like these niggas was old, bro. Like,
yeah. Hmm.
like I
Yep.
don't I don't get it. I don't. Thank God I have dual citizenship. I'm gonna be out there. Like, look, I'm look, whatever. It might not be,
Yeah,
after the election, but by January, hopefully, I have a ticket to Jamaica. I'm just chill. I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry for the rest of you
We're
people.
we're plotting
I
our
might be
escape to
stuck here.
Canada.
Or I'm going to move to Puerto Rico, like some people have been saying, who don't know that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it is. But
yeah. So
yeah. So the move to Toronto might come, but we'll see. We'll see how things shake out. Everyone seems super excited right now. So we'll see how that works. But, it's gonna be
yeah,
tough either way. So everyone's gonna have to really dig in and work hard. But yeah, that's basically what's been like taking up all the oxygen over the last couple of days. So I couldn't not mention it because it was just like
it's
it's too
there. It
important. Yeah,
exists.
it's too
Yeah, it's
important.
yeah. And it kind of also borders on entertainment news in a way, because
It
you
does,
know,
which is it says a lot
yeah,
about where we're at.
yeah. Like my man Wolf Blitzer was talking about, yo, I'm getting these drinks for brunch, baby. And then an hour later, he's like, damn, I'm back on TV. And like you could see it in his face. Like that dude did not want to be there. He was enjoying brunch. The man
Oh,
got a talk about having a Wolf Spritzer at a bar, got a drink named after him. And then an hour later, there's like, yo, CNN, get your ass in the booth, boy.
it's true
Mm-mm.
because every single one of those reporters looked exhausted. Like they had to just hurry up and throw some clothes on and get out there. Like it was just like everyone was having a chill Sunday and then this happened. So I feel for the reporters. The reporters are like really because you have to keep talking for hours. Like it's such a hard
Uh,
job. Like I couldn't do it.
They were talking about nothing. They had nothing to report beyond what was said. And they were there for 3 hours waffling. And well, we're waffling now, but hey, you know,
We we are waffling, so let's not waffle anymore and let's get to our last segment, which is what we've been watching. Dale.
um, had a busy weekend, busy week. So I'm kind of right now in the midst of, playing catch up with the last couple episodes of The Boys, and probably also catch up on House of Dragon. Kind of a lot of stuff was happening this month where I really wasn't watching a lot of personal stuff. I wasn't watching TV, so now I'm in the middle of playing catch up with those items or pieces of media, as you would say. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I I watched a movie, well, a movie. I watched Atonement. The thing is like I saw Atonement years ago, but for some reason I didn't remember anything about the movie. So I don't think I saw it. I think I saw maybe like a couple of scenes from it, but I didn't see it all together. So I watched Atonement for my film club with my friends that I have. And it's so good. Like I didn't realize how incredible like cinematography, performances, costumes, like music, the writing is amazing. Like everything is just like so tight. And like James McAvoy, I keep forgetting how incredibly talented he is. He was giving everything in that movie. Like ate it down, left no crumbs. Like he was incredible in that. Young Saoirse Ronan, amazing. Like I was so pissed at her. She did a great job. Like everyone was just awesome. And Keira Knightley,
Yeah.
my queen, like yes. So fantastic movie. Like if you haven't seen it in a while, I would recommend just go watch it. It's free on YouTube. So like just do it because it's so good and it's like devastating. Like I was on the verge of tears. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
it's such a compelling story. Like A's across the board. A's across the board.
But I'm not, well, I know there's a movie trailer coming. I'm looking forward. I think we spoke about, I mentioned before, the Andrew Garfield, Florence Pugh. Looking forward to that movie coming out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I did see the trailer
For
for
Conclave
was it Conclave? Yes,
with Ralph Fiennes.
Rob
Yo,
Fiennes and
Stanley Tucci. I saw it in the
Ooh.
theater. Oh, I
I was
said,
like, ooh.
okay. Guess what I'm doing this
This
November? Like,
this religious political thriller. Okay, you got me. You got me, my boy. Ralph Fiennes and fucking Stanley Tucci dropping bombs and stuff. I am with it. And then like I saw the trailer for the new James McAvoy movie where he plays good crazy people.
yeah, it's a little scary. It's like,
So yeah,
yeah,
looking for yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't wait for fall because that's when all of the bangers are coming out. Like, this spring has been pretty lit. Like, between Dune and Challengers, like it's been a good little run. But in the fall, I know I'm gonna be at the movies like every week, and I love that feeling of just being like, there's so much good stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that is it from us this week. We hope that you're all doing well and taking care of yourselves. Make sure to check us out on social media. Support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Au revoir.